What's up, guys? I'm back with the podcast. I haven't done one in a minute, but we had to do one for the 2024 election. Um, I want this podcast to be productive. I hope I don't want to just reach the same audience that, kind of believes what I do and, I voted for Trump. I want to talk to people that didn't vote for Trump and kind of try to paint a picture as to why I think people are a little bit overreacting and why, why I think the Dems failed and what they need to do to not fail this miserably again. And I don't think it's going to be bad if we have a Democratic president, if he or she is aligned with their policies where the average American is. And I really think that's where things crumbled. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into what this Trump presidency will look like. And then we'll get into a little bit about like the 2020 election and I'm going to start there. And then, we'll talk about why, the whole voter fraud thing and everything. So I have tried to be pretty fair and objective for the most part. Obviously, there's biases and everything we do because, we're humans. We kind of lean one way or another. And, when I'm wrong, I'm going to try my hardest to, say that, hey, I'm wrong and I got something wrong. And, here's the correct stuff. I have been getting better and better of holding back information and verifying it. But, we're human, it's just me. I'm just one guy looking. I got a whole freaking busy life. Like, I love doing these podcasts, even though I got like 5 listeners, but it's fun. It was really, really fun for me, but I just haven't had time to actually sit down and do this. And, I'm recording this at, 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. I just got done with all my meetings and I was like, I really want to do this. So I got to cut some time. So looking at the data and the data and statistics and everything like that, it's a great research report that was done by the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative leaning organization. They found that there was not enough election fraud over the course of the last like 5-6 elections to really swing the election in one way or the other. And like I said, that's coming from a right-leaning organization that spent a lot of resources and time trying to, get to the bottom of this. I think what is more likely to happen in 2020 and why you got a higher voter turnout than ever before is because it was really a supercharged election. First time in the world, in the modern world, with modern technology, we had a pandemic. People were upset about that. People's lives were impacted. We also had racial tensions flare up and just everything. And on top of that, we had the constant media pressure that Trump was facing. So I think just at that point, Americans were just done. More Americans were done than, the guys like us that voted for Trump. And I think that's really what happened. And look, is ballot harvesting a real thing? It is. You can go pay for people, to, take their ballots and say, here's $100. I'm going to take your ballot and I'm going to cast a vote how I wish. And, that's a real thing. There have been people that have been, thrown in jail for ballot harvesting. I think to really preserve this country, no matter what, going forward, and this is one of the reasons why I was happy that Trump was in, and I really felt like this election meant a lot, is because there's still states out there. There's only 36 states that require voter or some form of ID before you vote, and there's like 14 states that don't, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's no good reason not to have voter ID other than the fact that you want to cheat. Now, why I think Harris lost. I mean, let's break it down from here. And hopefully, I hope that if you were a Kamala supporter, you could kind of see my point of view. And I'm going to try to look at it from a lens of like an independent. I'm socially, liberal. I'm fiscally conservative, and I think a lot of people, my age, I'm in my 30s, hold this view. I'm somebody that was, pretty much Democratic because, I grew up on Jon Stewart and I felt like the policies of the Democratic Party faded. I was like an old school Democrat. And unfortunately, it pushed us away from a party that I thought it was one thing, and once the day and age we're living in now, it's another. Um, I think that was the biggest driving factor. So let's start with, why did Harris lose? And the most like insane thing to me was the fact that legacy media is still trying to paint, you know, us voters as like sexist and misogynist and like horrible people. And it's like, maybe the thing isn't trying to figure out what the voters and why they did what they did. Maybe it's trying to figure out, well, what did they vote for? They voted for policy. They voted for certain things that they wanted done in this country. And maybe if you took the time to listen, if the Democratic Party took the time to listen and address some of those needs, they could have won. To me, it doesn't matter about one specific guy or whatever. It's literally what's going to be a better America, for the next generation that's coming and from our generation. Like, I'm in my prime right now. I'm in my best working years for the next 20 years. We want the best things set up. We don't want war anymore. There's a lot of things that we're going to get into here that, the reason why I voted for him. And if you're, like I said, if you're listening to this and you were somebody that voted for Harris or leans left, like, maybe I could get you to say, you make a couple of good points. Maybe I need to look more into this and not just be, blinders on and, I only believe in what I believe, right? So a couple of the fundamental things, and really this is a problem that should have been addressed by the Democratic Party in 2016 and wasn't. So if you look at the history of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, like, the way it works is you run these things called primaries before you put your main person in front. And a primary means if I'm a Democrat or if I'm a Republican, I go to my party first. We all, debate amongst each other as who we're going to push up on both sides. Now, the Republican Party is a straight up one for one, right? You put your paperwork in, you go there, and then if you got enough, like, steam behind you, they're going to let you up on stage, you debate it out, and it goes state by state. They run like, whoever gets the most votes per state, and all overall, that's who they're going to nominate as president, because they're like, okay, this is what our people want to go forward. So we're going to get the whole Republican vote behind, this person. And then that Republican candidate's job should be to bring some people from the left over and, reach across the aisle and then, you could win. You would think the Democratic Party should be just exactly that way, because that's the most Democratic, one for one vote, but it's not. It's a mixture. And you have these people called super delegates in the Democratic side. So you have the regular vote and then you have the super delegates. And this is during their primary. So if I'm a Democratic, politician and I want to run for the 2028 election, then, I would go out there before and then I would say, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm putting my paperwork in. Other people put their paperwork in and we all go and then we all debate amongst each other. And then, you would think like whoever gets the popular vote should go forward, but it doesn't work that way. And the party did this in the 80s. They switched up the law internally to kind of like really take control of who they want to push forward. And the super delegates, although there is a misconception because a super delegate is somebody that's already, an established member of the Democratic Party. So it's like people that hold Congress and people that hold, Senate and people that are like majority rankers in the Democratic National Convention. All these people get votes that are worth more points than the actual regular citizens. So like in 2016, Bernie Sanders should have went forward, not Hillary Clinton. And I think if that happened, we'd be in a totally freaking different country. Totally different country. Because at least Sanders was appealing to regular people saying, we're going to do things for you, right? And yeah, I digress. So, whatever history unfolded and we are where we are now. And I think one of the things, more than anything else, it was, to me, on the outside looking in, I was like, that's not very democratic. They just installed Harris without running a primary. And I don't know why they thought this would be a good idea, because she didn't really have a record to stand on, right? Like there's not one thing that she did as VP that you're like, yeah, like that's that thing, right? And during the 2020 primaries, when she ran against Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Biden, Tulsi Gabbard freaking destroyed her, and she didn't even get one vote. she got nothing. She dropped out. She was like, it was like here today, gone tomorrow. And I was listening to a very interesting thing, and it was just funny. Like I'll share it with you guys. And it was like this guy who's like, basically, Obama picked Biden because he didn't want to be threatened or be outshined. Biden picked Harris because he didn't want to be threatened or outshined. And then Harris picked Tim Walz because she didn't want to be threatened or outshined. And that just goes to show you is like, that's not what's best for the party. It's not best for the country. Like Trump picked JD Vance. JD Vance is smarter than Trump. JD Vance is sharper than Trump. Trump doesn't care if he's getting outshined. And I think this time around, Trump is more playing for legacy. We'll get into all that. So more failure on the Harris side. Um, the track record was horrible. The things that people really cared about, the border, inflation, she didn't really have a good plan for it. And she really didn't get to show herself to the American people. And, some people are saying, well, she ran a short campaign. No, she ran a campaign where she was hiding majority of the time. I think going forward, look, I could be dead wrong about this. I mean, we'll see how 2028 plays out, but I don't think that we will ever, I don't think you could get elected president ever again solely based off of legacy media. Um, and the old talking points. I think the American people in this day and age of information are they're too smart. As much as the government thinks that we're incapable of being able to make our own informed decisions and that they should be the ones that are making the decisions for us, because God forbid we do something wrong, right? In a democracy, God forbid we have a choice, which is so condescending. It's like come on, man. People are smarter than what you think. Just because they're busy doing other things and they don't get to pay 100% attention doesn't mean they don't know what's going on or when they're being fooled or they're being lied to, right? Me saying all this, I don't think going forward you could hide a candidate. The candidate's going to have to be charismatic. The candidate's going to have to be smart. The candidate's going to have to be real and genuine, and they're going to have to go on podcasts. They're going to have to go on podcasts because because this is why. Just like I've built my little Instagram channel, for what it's worth, I have earned every follower that I have gained. I have put hours and hours and hours of time in, and I try my hardest to put thoughtful insight whenever I can. And some of these podcasts that are way bigger than I will ever be, right? They have also dedicated their lives to their craft. They have earned the credibility of their audience. And that means something to them. Guys like Rogan, guys like the All In podcast, they are not going to sell themselves short or sell out to their audience to get somebody elected. Majority of these guys, they're already well taken care of. You can't fire a podcaster. Like, they don't care. They have their audience base and they enjoy what they do. They love it. They're honest. They're genuine. That's why they got the following. They're never going to go against their audience and sell out to make more money. That's not majority of the time. That's not what it's about, right? And if one candidate like Trump goes in front and hits all of these road shows, as they're campaigning, hits all these podcast places up and allows the American people to see who they really are, and the other candidate does not, I think the person that's willing to go on the podcast and be genuine and be honest and, give America inside glimpse into who they are as a candidate, I think America is going to feel more comfortable voting for that person versus voting for the person that's hiding and scared and you really don't know what this person's all about or their personality or anything about them. I think that's changed everything. And I think all of those reasons that I just listed, the not running a primary, not having solid solutions and things to stand on, and then hiding from podcasts and from the public eye is what really did it in for the Harris the Harris campaign. And now the Trump campaign, I mean, they just did an amazing job. Like, I mean, hats off, man. Like, every point they were just on top. The McDonald's thing, the garbage truck thing. Um, I've never seen a campaign this energetic in my lifetime. Like, it was just like a cultural freaking movement, And so the people that are worried, the people that are scared, like I see, unfortunately, a lot of people panicking. Like shaving their head and saying they're not going to have sex for 4 years and, like all this crazy stuff, man. Look, like, we're in a constitutional democracy, and it's funny because I I think that the media does have a hand in causing this irrational like type of behavior. Um, I thought maybe this race would be closer because I thought like, the misconception, the misinformation about abortion would fall on Trump's head and that people would be like, we're going to care more about social issues than we do anything else. Like, obviously, to me, social issues matter, but like foreign policy wise, because I don't want to get into a war. I don't want some of my best friends that are in the military to go die for not protecting me, but protecting what we believe is our interest. It's not our interest, right? It's the interest of billionaires that want to get things done. I thought, and it turns out, I was right. Yeah, we care more about that than we do for personal social issues. But you know, um, just to get into that a little bit, all Roe v. Wade did was take the rights of the federal government to impose their will on everybody, and they gave those rights back to the states. And now every state has to decide for themselves if they want abortion and where the lines are and what happens. Um, that's basically summed up in a nutshell what it is. And Trump has already said he would not be okay with a national ban because, once again, that goes. We don't want the federal government in your life like that. Like that. It should be your decision, and as your vote. You should vote and make some noise and protest. And I don't think I'm in the stance of like, let women do what they want, dog. Like that's not there's another great bit. It's like, if they all of a sudden said men had to get vasectomies, there'd be a fucking uproar, right? Like, how dare you? You know what I mean? So it's like, but look, the whole abortion thing is a little bit more complicated because it's like, where do you draw the line? Like, can you kill the kid like a day before it's due and be like, I don't want the kid anymore? I'm not an expert there, man. I think it's a very personal decision. I think it's very, very tough. That's a conversation for another day. But I just want to point that out is these people that are freaking out, it's a state issue. And I think every state should address this sooner than later. And I think over the long run, it's an issue that should just be. It's like the gay marriage thing, man. It's like not to compare the two, man. I don't want to get it like twisted, but I'm saying like I think in the long run, almost every state is going to make abortion okay. Eventually, all of them are going to make it okay, and there'll be different, guidelines and whatever. But it has to work through the process. I hope it happens sooner than later. But to me, this issue was more about the war overseas, or the potential wars overseas. It was about our national debt, and it was about the border, and it was about taming inflation and all of these other different policies, and plus the list that he made, that Trump said that he's going to do, is the reason why I voted for him. And I want to share some of those thoughts with you guys. So maybe you would stop kind of freaking out. So, like, look, um, I want to point some facts out because I think one of the other things that has scared a lot of people are saying, like, oh, brown guys are just going to get deported. The cops are going to just see brown guys and just snag them up out of the streets and go. And they're just going to, they're going to be wild. And it's like, just to point out, under President Barack Obama, there was more legal deportations than any other president in the last like 20 years. Okay. So, and we didn't really hear about it because that's not how this whole thing kind of works, right? It's not just like they're going to go door to door and bust down. And look, I mean, I also want to prepare people for that because there might be some situations where that happens. And this is where my whole frustration with the media and everything comes in, is because they're not reporting objectively. They are one-sided. Let's start there. They are one-sided. And this is the thing that really makes me frustrated as just a, regular person trying to navigate life, is like, you know, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I can kind of see when I'm trying to, like, when you're trying to manipulate me, dog, like, don't question my intelligence, dude. Like, I'm not that, like, why are you doing that? Like, you're acting as though if I have a very low IQ and I'm not going to be able to put two and two together. I'll give you a perfect example. And this is when I think a lot of people kind of woke up, a little bit. And I think over the years, especially with the whole COVID misinformation and all that, and then the government and the media saying they need to censor misinformation. but yet you're the biggest spreaders of it, and there's nobody there to check them, right? Nobody there to check them. So, anyways, it was during the Carolina the statue thing when Trump came out and said there was good people on both sides, and Obama even came out recently in a campaign in a rally for Harris saying he said in Charlottesville, let's not forget there was good people on both sides, and everyone's like, yeah, like he's a racist, right? But it's such bullshit because if you look at the whole freaking clip, he said there's good people on both sides, but I condemn white supremacists. I condemn any racial radical behavior. What he literally meant for good people on both sides is genuinely there's people there that say, hey, we want this because it's a part of our heritage. And there's other people there that are also good people that are saying, hey, this makes us feel like, a certain type of way because you got somebody that was a slave owner that was, supporting the Confederacy, and it's like a slap in our face, right? And so on both sides, I mean, I personally could see the argument on both sides. I would just say, probably just take it down, dude. It's not that big of a deal. And I know other people are gonna be like, that's bullshit. You're deleting history and whatever. But it's like, if you look at the history of where, like, how fast those statues were put up and why, once again, totally different off topic, but this is what he was trying to say. There's good. Hey, there's a debate to be had here, and there's a middle ground we could reach. But the media took that and spun it into, see, he's a racist pig, And there's so many of these things. So like, and eventually people just got tired of it, man. Like if you go look look into the cases, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like if we were to look at, let's take the Steele dossier. They started off with the Russiagate. That started off with the Clinton administration looking, hiring a lawyer to look into it, and the FBI took that as like we got something here. It ended up being a whole lot of nothing, and a single media outlet apologized or said, "Hey, sorry about the lies. We were misinformed." And then the thing that really even got me even more angry was the Hunter Biden laptop story, where 51 intelligence agents came out, former and active, that said, "This is Russian disinformation. Do not believe this." And then we find out it was all true. So if you want to talk about a direct election interference, that one piece of news swung a 10-point differential. That would have been the difference of Trump being reelected and not. I truly believe that. So if you want to talk about fraud, that's the main fraud that happened, and it happened through the state, the deep state, but it did. It literally happened from intelligence officers suppressing it. And then when Elon bought X and, he made all this public, that was another thing. The FBI had a backdoor into Twitter, and they were able to silence and remove people that were posting things that they didn't agree with. And I think that should alarm every citizen. That's so scary. Like in a free and open democracy in a society, we should be able to combat ideas, right? Like if I post something and I'm dead wrong, I expect somebody in the comments to be able to say something. And just like on X, they just have community notes. You don't need to flag people and take them down. You could just be like, hey, this person, whatever the post is, just post the community notes with the actual facts and the sources. And it cleans up a lot of stuff. Like most people are going to click that and be like, oh man, this was fake. They got us, right? That's just kind of like the world we live in. And to say that you want some type of, crazy control over people, that you are the ones that gets to decide information, bro, you've already lied to us so much in life. Like what makes you think we're just going to trust you with that you're going to tell us the truth and we're just dummies? No. Pause. We'll figure it out ourselves. Give us the information. We'll ask questions. Let's get to the bottom of this. We're in an open society. We should be able to have dialogue back. We're adults. We're not kids. We're not 16-year-olds, right? We're grown ass adults. And we deserve to be able to make our own decisions and to be able to use our own brain. And it's so condescending too that how they're calling like Trump supporters uneducated, and this is why, and it's like, dude, no, like we are very educated, and we're educated enough to know we don't want our tax dollars going overseas to continue to power the war machine, which is the American military industrial complex that literally takes resources, our tax dollars, away from us that we could be investing here in America on American citizens. And we're dropping bombs and killing people and helping to spread chaos into the world because America wants to keep its influence and its dominance, and it wants to be the world police. That's why I voted for Trump. We're done with that. We don't want that anymore. And there's like a whole list of things that I could go through that Trump wants to accomplish. I posted it on my Instagram. If you want to check it out, you can. But really, my biggest political aspirations, or what I hope to achieve in our lifetime, is term limits on Congress, man. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that you could have a congressman or woman or a senator serve practically for more than 50 to 60% of their life. For what? That's not what the system was supposed to be. It was supposed to be you come out here into this world, you achieve something, right? Like you do good in your society. You're a business person, you built up a great company, you've been a teacher, you've been a firefighter, you've been a cop, you've been different walks of life. You've been a farmer your whole life. Like you have different life perspectives, right? From different parts of the country. You've done different things. You lived your life in a different way. You vacationed. Your families are different. Your kids are married to different type of people and religions and all this, and the community you're in is whatever. And you're bringing something special about America to Washington D.C. And you're saying, hey, in my 40 years, my 50 years that I have lived, I've experienced these things in my life. Let me take a little piece of that from my little piece of America, from my little corner of America, wherever that is. Let me bring it to DC and let me share this with my fellow people and say, hey guys, this is a different path. This is how we see the world. Like maybe we can make changes here. You take 2, 4, 5 years out of your life, 6 max if you're a senator, out of your life, and then you help push the society that you live in forward better for everybody, not just to enrich yourself and you know what I mean? Like, no, you're like, hey, genuinely, I've done these things in my life. I've raised my kids. I've done whatever. I'm in a good spot in life right now. Let me go give 6 years of my life to serve my country. It should be an honor and a privilege to be able to leave a little mark on this great country of ours, to be able to contribute a little bit to push that needle forward. And then you say, hey, you know what? I've done my job. Like America's gonna be in great hands. There's great people behind me. Let me pass the torch. Let me go back to my private life and enjoy my family. And of course, you can still voice your opinion and be interactive with your community, but we don't need you for your whole goddamn life. We don't need you for your whole goddamn life. We don't need parents. We're all adults. And we need to bring adults back to Washington. That will also, another law that Trump is trying to pass is if you were a part of a legislation, if you're a part of awarding contracts or whatever, it is illegal for you. And honestly, it should be illegal for you and your close proximity family to take a job at that corporation. So if I'm a congressman out of freaking somewhere, nowhere, Ohio, and I rolled up there and then I got to help, craft some legislation on like, I don't know, let's say Visa, ripping people off for credit cards and shit, right? It's not fair that after my 2-year, 4-year, 6-year term is up, I go take a little cushy job at Visa afterwards. What the F is that? You know what I mean? What is that? No, we don't want that. We wanted to say if you voted on that legislation when you were there and you leave, you can never have ties for the next 15, 20, or 30, whatever it is. Like you just have no ties with that company. You did what was right for the American people, not what was right for your own freaking pockets. That's what Trump is trying to accomplish. And I think that's going to piss a lot of people off because really, that's how you cripple the deep state, right? Because you don't have people that are continuously coming in and out. You have people coming continuously in and out of Congress. So if you're elected to one term and you have one term, you're just going to try to do what's best for your people back home. You're not there to line your pockets. You're not there running for reelection. You're just there saying, well, hold the hell up. I got to learn the job. And, you're going to learn. And then you're going to say, okay, what's best for the people here? You're going to vote and then you're done. You're done. Like someone like AOC, for example, if this thing does not pass, she will probably spend the rest of her life in office. And for what? You went to Washington, D.C., you made your voice heard, you did whatever. Now go back and go live your life as a regular citizen now. Why are you going to be in office for the rest of your life? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Another thing he's trying to set up is part of the plan is having congressional oversight over these intelligence agencies to figure out what the hell is going on. We need to have that. We need to have like, hey, every year, every 6 months, you're going to go sit in front of like a House committee and you're going to disclose whatever it is. And every now and then we're going to go send guys in independent investigation and see what you're doing and seeing if anything you're doing is illegal and working against the American people. We need to have accountability again. That's also what Trump is bringing. It's all in his plan that he's trying to get done. And so when I look at these things and I see all these things laid out, I'm like, okay, these policies, they absolutely make sense. And then you look at the team that's around him. He literally got two former Democrats, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, that supported him. They're probably going to be in his administration as well. He literally reached across the aisle and, in my opinion, grabbed some of the best people that Democrats had to offer and brought them over to the side to literally for the country. And I think I want to end it with this as like all these people that are freaking out about Trump. Oh, he's going to be a dictator and this and that. The dude's almost 80 years old, or he already is 80. He's not going to live forever. He probably has another decade to live. That's his life. It's going to come for everybody. I think this time around, Trump is legitimately playing for his legacy. He's not playing to make more money or to try to live longer or to try to fucking be a dictator and then put his kids in and do. No, I think he's literally going to go and give it his best shot for the next 4 years. And he's going to put the best people in positions to help this country. And when he's long gone, I could come back and tell my kids, be like, man, tell you what, man, that second term under President Trump was amazing. He did X, Y, Z, A, B, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And like, he really helped shape this country. And that's the type of leadership we should want. We should want that type of leadership that wants to go in and is not looking to just enrich themselves and is not looking to just, seize power for they're legitimately playing for legacy. They're legitimately saying, we're here because we actually care. We want to I've done great things in my life and I want to push the needle freaking forward. And I think that's what we're getting. And I think that the legacy media has done an immense amount of damage to the American psyche. I think that the lies and the misinformation that they spread and their unapologetic way that they carry themselves, as in, hey, we just said a bunch of stuff. We're going to push forward and we're going to push this agenda down. When this doesn't, okay, we're going to go to this agenda, then we're going to go to this agenda. It's not fair. It's not objective. It's not helping anyone. It's being divisive. And, there is a way out. I think slowly but surely, as my generation takes over the boomer generation in the next 30 years, I'm not tuning into CNN. I'm not tuning into MSNBC. I'm not. They're going to die out naturally because it's BS. But in the meantime, this turbulence that we're going to have to face as a country is a direct correlation with the information that we're getting from legacy media. It really is. And I think they have a job to do, and I think they forgot how to be journalists. They're not honest. They're not fair. And they're pushing their own personal agendas every time. And I hope things change, man. Like I think another part of it is like, well, journalism got devalued and there's no money in it or whatever, and it's boring and they have to have clicks. I mean, most of that stuff is kind of true, I guess, if you look at it from that perspective. Is like at the end of the day, they're a business and they're going to do what they're going to have to do to make money. They really are, right? Like at the end of the day, you still got to keep the lights on. You can't just fund it at zero cost. But I think the future is there is no legacy media. I think the future is little forums like this. Like if I got 5 people watching this, we could have a conversation. These conversations are going to happen all over the world, and there's going to be certain people that rise to the top, such as like Rogan and all the other like Theo Vaughn's podcast, like all these other segmented podcasts, and there's still going to be online sources that report news, but they're going to have to. I think what's going to happen is only maybe 2 or 3 are going to survive, and I think the most honest brokers are going to survive. I think the rest of them are just going to be made fun of, and eventually they're gonna collapse under their own weight. Like it's like CNN when they launched that streaming service and it was just an utter failure and they couldn't understand what's going on. It's just like now they don't understand what's going on and they're blaming everybody else for like their deplorable actions or behavior, but they're not looking inwards and just looking at what is it that Trump is offering the American people versus what is the Democratic Party offering the American people. And that's the big difference is Trump is offering us what we want. And the Democrats are all emotion based. There's no, and then okay, let's get into the foreign war side of things. I mean, You heard Trump say this over and over. There would be no war in Ukraine. There would be no war in Gaza right now. And I truly believe that. The Biden administration had a chance to prevent the Ukrainian war from happening, but they pulled cold water on it. They wanted to proceed. Um, it's a big game that's being played, and it's a game that I think I don't want to play, and I don't think a lot of Americans want to play. Like, you know, we need to be able to focus on ourselves. Like, all Putin wanted was for Ukraine to say, we're not going to go into NATO and we're not going to, put any nukes or anything on it. We're going to be left alone. And things probably would have just ended just peacefully. And if Biden would have never gave the money to Iran that then funded the Houthis to then attack, we probably wouldn't have the mess that we have right now. But these are big problems. And I feel like Trump does have the deal making ability to be able to get this done. And, another bigger concern was like the total waste that the government has been on, especially over the last 20 years. With the national debt reaching $33 trillion and almost half of our income collected going to the interest payments, it's a scary thought. But I do want to point out one thing. Vast majority of that national debt that a lot of people do not talk about are unfunded liabilities. The unfunded liabilities, by the way, are Social Security and Medicare. And, if we go broke, that's going to be one of the first things that's going to get cut, because the actual debt is somewhere in the ballpark of like 13 or 14 trillion, which is like decently manageable. Like, we could have that paid off in about 20 years while still keeping government up, but we would have to get rid of the entitlements. We'd have to get rid of Social Security. We'd have to get rid of Medicare. Well, what do all the old people do? And I guess this goes into a deeper conversation. I would say that it goes into the American psyche. I grew up in an Indian household. I still hold on to the values of like the Indian mentality, in the sense of like, I'm not putting my parents in a home. Like, when they get of that age, like, they're going to live with me. I'm going to fully take care of them, bathe them if I have to, all the way, because that's just what I was taught to do. Like, I'm not going to I can't. It's against, who I am and how I was raised and everything, right? But the American mindset is independent, free, live on our own as long as we can. And if we go down this path, the American mindset is going to have to change. It's going to have to be more family oriented, and we're kind of already seeing that in fragments of the economy where people can't afford to buy their own home. Unfortunately, they just don't have that luxury. And so then you have a married couple that's moving in with either either set of in-laws, and they're making it work together. And sometimes that's annoying because you want your own space and whatever, but it could also be a very beautiful thing to have family around. And I don't think it'd be a bad thing if more Americans adopted that, because really, this never really gets talked about. Like, they always say like, oh, Indians are succeeding, Asians are succeeding in America. Well, how is it possible? They got high incomes and all that. It's because we stay as one collective family unit. Like, if your mom and your dad is staying with you, that's a whole nother house payment and a whole set of bills and groceries that y'all get to save. That's an extra like 24 to 30 grand a year in savings you get right off the rip. And of course you're going to be able to get ahead versus the family that's split. And then, mom and dad have a house and the new husband and wife have a house. That's just basic mathematics, right? But to my point, I hope that Trump does not go on a crazy, spending spree, and jack up the deficit even more. I hope that we do have government accountability, and I'm optimistic that we will. And another reason why was, for the Trump campaign, you had Elon Musk, get behind him. That was a major push. You have David Sachs and Peter Thiel behind him, which are brilliant, smart guys that got his back. And you have Tulsi Gabbard on the team. You have RFK on the team. I mean, you have Vivek on the team. You have very smart people around Trump. You have JD Vance. You have very sharp people around Trump that are actually going to be able to guide him in the right direction. And I think Trump is humble enough at this point to be able to take that advice with an open mind. He always has been, because as a business person, as much as he gets hate, you don't build an empire in freaking New York City by not being likable, by not being smart, by not being able to take advice, good advice when you get it. And, whatever you want to say about the man, like he's been able to have success in his life. And, I, you know, I think it's going to be fine. And I think the overreaction, to me, is a direct reflection of the craziness of the legacy media, man. You know, it's sad that, they're the ones that are, they have, their rhetoric is pretty unhinged. Like remember when they said when Trump lost in 2020 that everybody should be put on a list, like stuff like that, man. It's got to stop. And it stops with the people in the media. And I think we have to hold them accountable. Like, hey, you have to be careful what you're saying. And whatever it is that you're putting out there, you should be above everybody else, be able to stand on it with hardcore facts. Otherwise, you don't say it, and you have to have people on the record. Excuse me, you can't just say a source or call it an op-ed and just throw some wild, outlandish stuff out there to rile up the people because you are the direct reason why violence is happening. You are the reason why divisiveness is happening. I mean, in this campaign trail, 80% of the articles written from legacy media, I'm sorry, Trump got 80% bad press from legacy media versus Kamala, who got like 20. And it was the reverse opposite of positive versus bad. And I just don't know, like, how is that, not a blatant freaking bias? And, things like that need to change. I mean, it's already changing, right? Because, we've tuned out and we've listened to independent podcasts and independent journalism. And, we have X. I think that was also another, big determinant factor is, when you have a social media platform that has pushed truth and you've allowed truth to come through, that's undeniable. And it was massive. And there's no doubt that the Democratic Party, or at least the Biden administration, weaponized the DOJ. They went after political opponents. I mean, the whole Elon Musk thing was crazy. The DOJ can't really do they get to take on like a handful of very big cases every year. One of the cases they decided to pursue was against SpaceX. And the lawsuit was just like, what? They sued SpaceX because SpaceX wasn't going to be hiring asylum seekers. Well, SpaceX works on advanced weapons technology, which by federal law, you have to be a citizen because the last thing you want is some person coming in from somewhere. You don't know who they are, what they are. They get in, they get some information, and they take it back to God knows where. So, like, the law literally states that SpaceX cannot hire people that are non-citizens, and then the Department of Justice sued them because they wouldn't hire asylum seekers. If that's not politically charged, I don't know. And Biden literally came out and said, I think Elon Musk needs looking into. Like, how is that? We're not even going to get into the other court cases that went against Trump. I mean, the one of them that was the one New York trial that was blatantly just like a BS thing was, Mar-a-Lago is really only worth $18 million. And Trump inflated the number and all that. In order for a crime to happen, you have to have somebody that was actually hurt. And on top of that, you're also challenging the bank's intelligence. If you go to a loan officer and you say, I own XYZ property, it's worth this much, and the bank says, oh, yeah, you're right, it must be worth that. Here you go. That's not how it works. That's not how the world works. You have appraisals done on it. You have feasibilities done on it. The bank actually determines, like, if we get that piece of property, would we be able to sell it for 70% of the price that this person said is worth? Yeah, you know what? We will. Okay, we're going to take that bet. Because if it was that freaking easy, I got a bridge in Brooklyn that I could sell you. And it's worth $100 million. So give me 70 million right now and I could go start some businesses. It's not how it works. So to say that the DOJ wasn't politicized to go after Trump is just, it's insane. And do we really want to live in a country where the Department of Justice is wielded by whoever's in office to go against their political opponents? And I hope to God that Trump does not do that. And if he does do that, I will call him out for it because I don't want to live in a nation that's like that. Unless there's a crime that's so blatant that's like, oh wow, that needs investigating. Because we could clearly tell we're not dumb people. We're going to be able to tell if it's something that is like, hey man, this needs to be addressed, or if it's like, hey man, you're just looking to look, right? And I'm not saying that this Trump presidency is going to go without flaws or missteps, but guess what? At least me, I won't be there to cover for him. I'm going to be like, yo, this is a mess up, and this is why, and then this is why I feel like this shouldn't have happened, and this is where he was wrong, or I feel that he was wrong. You know what I mean? I don't want to be known for somebody that just likes somebody and just, supports every single thing they do. No, like I want, more than 51% of the decisions you make, I want it to align with things that I think that I would have liked to see done. And the things that aren't, we got to get called out. Like no one's going to be perfect, right? But for the people freaking out, man, I just think that it's really childish. It's really, really childish, man. And if you don't, you know, have faith in the American people. All right. Even though, I voted for Trump, if I see an injustice being done to any citizen, regardless of, their gender of choosing, their skin color, their religion, who they are, I will stand by them shoulder by shoulder and say, yo, dude, that's wrong. We're not going to stand for this. I don't give a shit what your political alignment is or whatever. If you need help, if you're in distress, if you're being taken advantage of, I want to be there to help you. And I can guarantee you the vast majority of Trump supporters would be there to help you. We want to be like, yeah, whatever. Because look, man, whatever the Republicans decide to do onto the Democrats are going to do back to the Republicans. And I don't want that to happen for this nation. I think that would be the biggest travesty. I think Trump should take the high road here. He shouldn't launch investigations and just let it go, man. Let's move forward with this country for what it's going to be. Implement these plans, put term limits on, investigate, agencies, doing corrupt things, put in, government efficiency boards that we get to see where the money's being spent and all that. But let it go. There's no reason to go back and pick on somebody and, like let them do that. And if we take the high road and we set the tone as adults, then hopefully because the Democrats one day will probably be in power if they're smart enough to get their shit together, which eventually if they keep losing, they're going to have to conform to become more moderate to be able to get power again. And hopefully when that happens, they let it go too. And they don't, and if they continue to, we'll be right here to call them back out and we have a leg to stand on. And then you'll get the results that we just got a week or Tuesday, 5 days ago. We'll be back in power because nobody wants to see that happen to our country. Nobody wants to see somebody use their power to put their thumb down on somebody else. That's freaking horrible, right? I know we're better than that. I know we're better than that. And I know we're better. We're not bad people, bro, overall. Even if my neighbor voted for Harris, I'm not going to look at them any different. If I'm going to go to my car and I see their freaking garbage can is still, at their front thing and trash pickup is tomorrow and I'm up early, I'll go move their garbage can for them still. I'm not going to be an asshole and be like, oh, you voted for Harris. You're my enemy. You're not my enemy, bro. We just disagree on, the way we think that the country should move forward. And we believe that this is the best way to proceed. And if it ends up being wrong, then in 4 years, we'll change it. And I'll admit it. I'll be like, damn, these were wrong policies. These policies that Trump did need to be reversed, or we shouldn't do that again. And if those issues become the most important and the Democrats are making more sense on those critical issues, I would vote for a Democrat. It's not my team versus your team. We just really want what's best for this nation, what's best for our kids going forward, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. And always the policies that are more closer to the middle are going to win. I think the left has gone a little bit too extreme. Like, I got nothing against transgender people, bro. You do whatever you want to do with your body and your own time. Like, that's all you. Live the life you want to live. I got no hate in my heart for you. Congratulations. Like, live life to the fullest. It's very short anyways. But don't do that to kids. Like, you don't know what the hell you're doing when you're 12, 13 years old. Bro, you don't even know who you are yet as a human being. You don't even know what you believe. Like, how are you going to make a life altering decision at that age? That's just nonsense. And that's the type of stuff that needs to leave the Democratic Party in order for someone like me to ever be able to vote for a Democrat again. Like the next person that the Democrats decide to put up, that person needs to not have a track record of being extremely leftist. And the way they speak needs to be more moderate. I don't want any of that other stuff. I don't want them to say, we have support for wars overseas or anything like that. You need to come to the middle if you're going to win my vote, and probably most likely people that think like me's vote, which are pretty moderate people, pretty open-minded people, because the election is really swung on a few 100,000 votes. The independent votes are what's really going to move the needle. And those independents are down the middle. Like, they care about the economy. They do care about what happens to their kids in schools, man. That shit is important. They do care if you're insulting people. They do care if you're weaponizing government agencies to go after your political opponents. They're not dumb. They pay attention. And to me, that was the biggest takeaway. And, I hope things in this country really do calm down. We've been saying this now for the last 4 years, and it kind of melted, but now it's back up to like this whole rhetoric. And for me, really, I'm really watching legacy media, because this week they were blaming nothing but uneducated people and still villainizing them. And then they were blaming uneducated white women for not supporting a black person, when it's like, dude, it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the policies, right? Like, all that needs to change. I hope that they give Trump a decent chance at saying, okay, what is he saying? What's the policy he's putting forward? And is this good for America and America's future? And they don't just immediately say, oh, he's a this and he's that and he's a bad guy. And then you get all these guys riled up. There's a reason why there was 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. There's a reason why. Because if you keep calling somebody Hitler and a fascist and a Nazi, when it's simply not freaking true. It's not true. Like, the Party of Joy thing, that was a Nazi party slogan. The party of the Harris ran on, that was a Nazi party freaking slogan, right? And for you to call somebody Hitler, for you to say that, you better have some hard freaking facts, bro. Like, do you know who Hitler was? Do you know what he did? Because when you call somebody else that, you take away from what Hitler actually was. You take away from the suffering that he caused, because you're comparing it to somebody that's not anywhere near the ballpark, and then that gets ingrained in other people's images. Like, don't do that. Do not do that. That is violent freaking rhetoric. That is violent rhetoric. You don't see Republicans out here calling other people like Stalin, or calling them, like we're looking at what you're doing right now, bro. Like, it's so insane to me that you could sit there and you could call somebody something without any factual, real hard evidence. Is he making gas chambers? Is he locking people up and killing them? Is he shutting down businesses? Is he going to colored people? Is he getting cops or political party members to go to businesses and put markings on special businesses that are not white or not whatever? And then are there going to be nights where they're coming in and breaking those businesses down? No, none of that is happening. So how can you say that he's Hitler? Like, it's such a freaking lazy, inexcusable, and dangerous thing to do. And you're doing nothing but destroying your own credibility. We're not dumb, man. We're not dumb. We could think for ourselves. You're never going to be able to fool the American people again. And that's the number one thing that I hope everybody takes away from this election. No matter whatever side you're on, you are never going to be able to fool the American people ever again. We're watching, we're listening, and we are smart. Just because we don't all have a fucking piece of paper for some bullshit ass degree, it doesn't mean our fucking intelligence is nothing. We know how to think for ourselves. We know how to fend for ourselves. We're okay. And if you keep treating us the way you have been, and mocking us and ridiculing us and calling us uneducated, you're going to keep getting the same results you just got. Stop doing that. And if you watch this and you were decently open-minded, I hope you look into some of the things I said. And maybe I'm not going to convince you fully to come over, on the other side. And practically, I don't really give a shit if you come over to the other side or not. It's not about sides. I just hope that if you listen to this, you at least paused and said, you know what, he made a couple of good points. Let me just reevaluate the way I'm thinking. You know what? I'm feeling so emotionally strong about, being against Trump and all of this. Like, I listened to this guy. Let me go listen to the Rogan podcast. Let me go listen to the All In podcast. Let me go see what JD Vance has to say. What did Trump have to say? What did these people have to say about him? What's the other side of this thing? Why did so many people vote? Let me actually listen to that other side and then see if any of it made sense. Or do I still feel the way I do? Because if you haven't taken the chance or the moment to actually listen to the other side, then how are you so sure and confident about your beliefs? You're doing yourself a disservice. You really are. You are smart enough to be able to make your own decision one way or another. But in order to make a good decision, you need to be able to take in a lot of information. Anytime that in your life that you have made a critical decision, whether it's like buying a freaking fridge or buying a car or a new TV, whatever it is, I bet you sat down and you took a bunch of information in. You probably went to bestbuy.com and Amazon and looked at reviews or went on Reddit and just saw all sides and said, you know what? Let me go freaking kick the tire on this thing real quick. And then you made the decision. So why would your political affiliation or your choice for, your future leader of this country be any different? And if you're sitting there and you made a decision and you never bothered to look at the other side, I'm sorry, but you did yourself a disservice. You owe it to yourself to at least hear the other side out and try to understand what's going on. If for nothing else more, it at least will be able to put your mind to rest and you'll be able to say, well, I legitimately listened to about 6 to 7, 8 hours over the last, 3 weeks of podcasts from different podcasters talking about it and different viewpoints and then different interviews that I watched. And I still conclude what I conclude. Okay, well, at least you gave it an honest go. But if you never did that and all your source and all their information and everything came from only a select group of friends or a select media outlet and you closed your mind off to everything else, once again, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Well, we're approaching an hour here. Hey, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a comment. Let me know what you thought. I'm going to try my hardest to try to do more of these. I just got to be able to squeeze the time. It's now almost 2 a.m. and I still got to wait for this thing to up or download. Then I got to upload it and, whatever. But anyways, appreciate you guys. We're going to be fine, dude. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Don't panic. Don't panic. It's all good in the hood, baby. All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.